Good morning. Hello and welcome to a live stream for my class, which is Intro to Digital Studies, a class at University of Mary Washington. If you're a student in the class, thanks for watching. Hopefully some of you are able to watch live. Hopefully, if not, you're able to watch it later on after the fact as usual. So right now I'm seeing just 2 viewers on my dashboard, but there could be more. That's always a little bit out of sync on that view count, but that's all right. If you are watching, it's always nice to see who's out there, so feel free to say hello. Oh yeah, good morning. Hello, thank you. Either in the Twitch chat, as Sonia just did, or in the live stream chat channel in Discord. So today we're going to be continuing our discussion of, or I'm going to be continuing talking about, it's not really a discussion unfortunately, but I'm going to be talking a bit more about web literacy, which is the assignment of this week, and maybe a few more things. Today's goals are essentially to help you develop a few more skills in your toolkit for completing the web literacy assignment. So specifically that's going to involve completing an activity called evaluating websites. And this is part of a concept that Mike Caulfield calls reading laterally. And then I'll say a few more things about how to complete that draft of that article and help make sure you're on the right track with it. Speaking of the right track, if you have not already submitted your topic ideas through that Google form that's in the assignment page, then please do that. You can also just DM me in Discord and we can talk about it there. That way, there are still some good ideas coming through. Try as much as possible to find your own ideas as opposed to using the ones from the list, because some of those in the list are actually not great to research individually. The point of my putting them on the list here, like these up here, was more to show you the structure of the kind of thing you should look for. Don't take for granted that all of these are good topics. I mean, some of them are actually probably not great. But if you find one of these that's really interesting, then that's fine. I also have a much longer list of topics that are similarly, maybe okay, maybe not, but it's like 300 topics long, so I don't usually share that list. But if you're really stumped or if you really hate all of these topics, then I can share that list with you if you'd like. So I guess another thing I wanted to mention about just any of these topics and anything else you might, or whichever topic you're researching, right? There was another mass shooting in the country yesterday, and I'm not going to talk about the event itself or anything, but I wanted to acknowledge that if you are doing this kind of research correctly, that is, if you're trying to trace some of these conspiracy theories to their origins, you, as you're completing this assignment, may come across some pretty disturbing conspiracy theories about that mass shooting and really all mass shootings. This is something that always happens whenever there's one of these things that come out. There's a ton of emotion, obviously. People are upset, and so people, a couple of things happen. Like people rush to blame and think about what we should do, or just bemoan the fact that probably nothing's going to happen, and that's a very frustrating place of helplessness. And basically, I'm avoiding social media personally for that reason, because I don't want to see everyone's hot takes and or expressions of despair or whatever. But also, once you get into conspiracy sites, there's a whole other angle that you'll start seeing on those, which is that the conspiracy that usually comes up, and I have seen it already for this one, is that it was staged, that it didn't actually happen, that it was a fake event in order to, for whatever reason, the conspiracy goes. But you will see that come out. Related to that, the Sandy Hook shooting was the one example where there was a false narrative that this was a fake event, and Alex Jones is probably going to be is in the process of being held liable for spreading that conspiracy. But that conspiracy persists, and it's emerging again with this one. So that's a really distressing and depressing thing to see people talking about. So all that's to say, I'm not really sure what I'm proposing. But if you are a student in this class, and if you're working through trying to research some of these topics, they may inevitably lead you to places where you see some really ugly things being shared and discussed. And I don't want that for you. I don't want you to have to go through that. So for that reason, if you are interested in, some of the topics that I've suggested and some of the ones that you've come up with too are relatively, let's say, benign politically, things that are a little bit, I don't even know if it's lighter is the right word, but things like, was the moon landing fake? is the Earth really flat? Those kinds of things are a little bit more, I guess, I don't want to say neutral, but they're a little bit lighter, a little bit easier to avoid kind of the chaos of the moment if you're researching the origins of those kinds of things. So feel free to switch to one of those topics if you would rather avoid having to dig through conspiracy sites right now. You really won't have to do much digging, honestly, but it's just inevitable that if you do this assignment right, you will find people making really ugly claims about what just happened. Another fake narrative I've seen, or probably fake, I mean, it's things are still emerging, right? But one thing I've seen people talking about too is like apparently the shooter tagged someone on Instagram, and so people are saying that she's his girlfriend. She's saying, I've never met this person, he's just a stranger who randomly tagged me. And so there's a question about what's true there, and who knows. So this is something that's also could be an opportunity for debunking or verifying something, but you know, the real journalists are doing that right now, and so it's okay to let them do that and then point to their answers once those answers exist. Anyway, I wish in a way that we could be together as a class and we could talk through some of these things that are going on right now, but since it's just me on talking to a camera, I'm not going to say much else about the current state of things, but I'm going to just again give you the option to switch your topic if you feel like there's too much to look through just emotionally. Okay, so let's talk about get back to the main stuff for today. So the activity, it's evaluating websites. Yesterday's activity, the activity that I talked about yesterday was tracing viral photos upstream and also assessing sites for sponsored content. So only a couple of you have done that so far, but those threads still exist in Discord. And the thing with threads in Discord is that they archive after 24 hours of inactivity. So I'm going to, I went through and bumped them this morning, so those threads stay active. I'm going to keep doing that throughout the week because I know some of you are just going to be doing all this in one sitting basically on the weekend or whatever, Friday maybe. So, you know, do that whenever. Like it's set up to work asynchronously. You can do it on your own time in Discord, but please do that because that's an important way to demonstrate that you're practicing the skills that are necessary for being successful with the web literacy assignment. When I've seen web literacy articles that are not successful or that aren't really doing what's been asked, often that student hasn't done the pre-work, hasn't done the practice stuff from the web literacy textbook. So please make sure you do that. If you're not sure how to do it, please ask. But really, as far as the mechanics of Discord, like where you post it or whatever, that doesn't really matter that much. What I really want is that you go through this textbook page by page and follow the instructions because it really does do that. Okay, so I did want to have a brief conversation about something else, a big picture kind of thing. I'm trying to find the page for it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's actually all the way in the back, which is this idea of what we're actually looking for. So when we think about the fact-checking template, we are looking for an answer here, yes or no. And I have tried to push you towards questions that have an answer or the potential to be answered. In other words, things that are claims of fact. And so things that are a claim of fact can be true or false, but it is saying this is what things are. So this is a pretty useful, I think, definition of what a fact is. In other words, this is when you would have enough confidence to say yes for the question that you're researching. Something, and this is good. I mean, so these are, these 3 bullet points really kind of get straight to it, which is something that is not generally disputed by people in a position to know the truth about it, by those who can be relied on to accurately tell the truth. So, in other words, just to trying to think of a less emotionally charged example, but let's say the moon landings. So, right, instead of the shooting yesterday, did the moon landings actually happen? According to this rubric for truth, we can confidently say that the moon landings happened because it's generally not disputed. In other words, most people don't doubt that they happened. In particular, people that are in a position to know whether or not it happened, for example, people that worked at NASA, the astronauts who actually went there, they certainly don't dispute that it happened. We also have a track record with these people. There's not a pattern of NASA lying to us about what they're doing, and so we feel pretty confident in trusting them. You notice that I didn't go to the moon. I didn't see it live. I was not part of that, but I feel very confident that that actually happened because it's not generally disputed by those who are in a position to know whether it happened, and I don't have any reason to doubt their reliability. So there's some more extended discussion in here. There's a bit of this here, but I think when we're thinking about different sources, this final bullet point is really relevant to what we're talking about today, which is reading laterally, like trying to understand, is this source actually a reliable source? So it says X is X, Y is Y, but are they a reputable source? Is there a history? Is there a track record that they usually tell the truth, or that they try to tell the truth? And that's what we're going to try to figure out today. And it takes a bit more of a different kind of thinking than you perhaps might have been taught in other kind of web literacy contexts or just kind of fact-checking contexts. We need to think about this in kind of a different way, and that is a thing that Mike Caulfield has called reading laterally. It's kind of a technical sounding word, but it really just means like trying to understand a website not through what it says about itself, but what other people say about it. And I will kind of talk through that shortly. Okay, so first of all, to think about reading laterally, I think it first of all makes sense to revisit the second step in the process, which was going upstream. And that's what the photo essay or the photo activity is meant to help you practice, going upstream to find the origins of it. I thought it might be helpful to think about this in a diagram. I like diagrams sometimes. So this is, if we think about like a website, so there's some blog post somewhere, it's citing a website as evidence. So this is me going downstream here in these illustrations first, and then I'm going to go back upstream in a second. I'll show you what I mean. Then we can imagine a tweet linking to an author's blog. We can imagine a quote retweet of some other account of that tweet, some other account quote retweeting that original tweet and adding some hashtags to it. And then we could see finally a Facebook post with a screenshot from Twitter. This is a very common way for things to proliferate. So if you use Facebook, you will see lots of Facebook posts that are screenshots of Twitter, and I don't know why. But the one cliche or one truism about the web today is that it's essentially 5 platforms that are filled with screenshots of all the other platforms, and that's a really depressing assessment of the state of the web today. But I think it's probably true. Anyway, so this is a very realistic way for something to proliferate. So whenever you're doing your research, for the web literacy article, whenever you're trying to figure out the examples, trying to find the things, the cases where your claim has been actually shared and discussed, you're probably going to find a lot of these things at the bottom. A lot of these Facebook posts with screenshots from Twitter. So what your job is as a researcher is to go back up the stream. So so where was that quote? What account did the quote retweeting? What was the original tweet's account? What was the blog post that was originally linked to in that? And go as far upstream as possible to find the most original source. So in this case, it's not even the blog post citing the website, it's the website that was cited. I mean, that's the source of this stream. And literally, if you think about like following a stream up until you get to the spring where it comes out of the ground, that's really what we're doing here in terms of this information. So it started somewhere. And this is what researchers do. This is what Snopes researchers do. This is what journalists do to try to figure out like who started this claim and why. And then we can figure out, does this actually, and then we start doing the other thing to figure out, is this something that they were actually in a position to have, to know, like, can we trust this source to be true about this particular claim? Okay, so that's kind of a quick, illustration of reading upstream. If we think about reading laterally, there's another diagram that I think makes sense. So imagine this little nugget here. This is the website in question that we found that made the claim that the moon landings were fake. So what we need to do next is we don't want to look that closely at the website itself. When we are reading laterally, we need to look at other websites and figure out what did those websites have to say about this one. So we might look at the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is an organization that tracks hate groups and their uses of media. We could look at Google, like literally what does Google say? Sometimes Google will have little pop-ups or notifications saying, hey, this is a site that's not reliable. Wikipedia is actually a great source for this as well. And that might run counter to some of the advice you've been given in other classes. You might have heard never to use Wikipedia. You definitely need to use Wikipedia, not just in this class, but in general. But you need to use it the right way, which is to see what is the consensus? Is there a consensus about this particular website that Wikipedia is expressing? A well-written Wikipedia article will express consensus in a judicious and objective way, and will also have sources cited that back that up. So Wikipedia is actually a great resource for reading laterally, and really for all other kinds of research as well, as long as you use it the right way. So what we're doing, and what I want to walk through here in a little bit, is evaluating websites. And we're going to try this out, I think, and I'll let you, I also have an activity for you to try this out on your own. So when we're evaluating websites, so this is an activity. Let me actually go back to the DigiPo article. I mean, the web literacy textbook. We are doing this activity here, which is chapter 19 or page 19. These are really short chapters, obviously. What you should do is read the instructions here and go back. So if you didn't read this before, go ahead and read this. And if you didn't read this, then go read this, right? So all of the things the skills that you will need in order to complete this activity are not on this page. They are on the previous pages. So work your way through them. They're very short pages. They're very focused on specific concepts and tactics. So you can do this. It's really just a handful of pages. So go back and then go forward again to this page. The only ones that are kind of specialized are things like this, like web searching for a domain, things like searching for, using the Whois database. These are things that you can do that are a little bit more advanced. I can show you how to do it in a moment, but that's it's a useful thing to do, and it's something that you can use here as you try to figure out what's going on with these particular websites. Okay, so this is the activity. I'm going to again walk through it here in a bit. Let me see if there's anything else I need to show you. Yeah, no, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and practice this out here. So so one thing we can do. I'm just going to try it on this first one. So this is, I mean, your activity is going to be to pick one of these and complete an evaluation of it. Just one of them. You don't have to pick all of them. So I just clicked on the first one here, CIS. And so what I'm trying to figure out boils down to a few pretty basic things. And I've got in the notes today, a link to a collaboratively editable Google Doc. I will go ahead and share this in the live stream chat channel. I forgot to make that link editable. Okay. I'm going to put that in the live stream chat channel. I'm not going to put it on Twitch because I get some spammers on there. So I'm going to go to I'll just share this in Discord. Here's the Google Doc. It's also available in today's notes. So this is kind of like the Discord stuff I shared yesterday. Like, it's something to complete on your own. You can do it now, you can do it today, you can do it Saturday, whatever. But I do want you to do this. Just pick one of these other than this one. So I'm going to do this first one right now on the stream to show you how to do it, and then you can do the other ones. Okay, so who runs cis.org? So that's what we're interested in here. And just to be clear, for this activity, I'm not trying to assess this claim. There is a claim here. Study reveals 72 terrorists came from countries covered by Trump vetting order. That's fine, whatever. I can look into this, but that's not my goal right now. My goal is actually to figure out, like, what is cis.org? Who is this website run by? And kind of what can I do? Your first inclination whenever you're looking at this and trying to figure out, okay, who is this, is you might want to go to their about page. You could go to their staff page. You could go to learn about whatever the CATSA word is. But that's not what we're doing when we read laterally. Of course, it makes sense to look at these things, but don't spend much time looking at the actual website. What we want to do instead is spend some time looking at, the other sources. So the first question is, in my table here, is who runs it? Like, who is the person here? They say that they are the Center for Immigration Studies, and they've got a link to this background page. So this is their explanation of who they are. And this, as far as answering that first question, this is probably pretty straightforward. They're an independent, nonpartisan research organization, pro-immigrant, low immigration vision. Okay, whatever. They have a staff list. They have founders. I'm going to say it's a. I guess I'm going to say just a very generic. It's Otis Graham founded it, and it's run by a large staff, basically. But basically, it's I think a think tank is a good enough term. A think tank or research group focused on immigration issues, specifically low immigration in their words. Now, this is probably the extent of the information that I can actually get from the website. And in fact, I'm going to probably need to come back and amend these two columns once I've done a little bit more actual reading laterally. So when we are reading laterally, what we want to do is we don't want to search CIS.org to figure out what they have to say about themselves. We want to figure out what other people have said about CIS.org. And one of the things we could do is web searching for this domain. So here's a little trick that you can do in Google, and it's something that is really quite useful actually for other reasons. So let me show you this, and I'll do it in Google, although the same thing works in, I think the same thing works in DuckDuckGo actually. Let me try it. So often I find it useful to search for things on the UMW website, and instead of going to umw.edu and using the search box there, you can actually just do this little search add-on thing. You type the word site, S-I-T-E, a colon, and then the domain that you want to search on. So site umw.edu, and then whatever you're searching for. And then there's a good chance it's going to show up. So that's how that works. So the site search is really useful. There's something else, this is going to be combined with another search tool that's also really useful. Let's say that you want to, I'll just use myself as an example, search for something and you want to exclude something. So if I want to look for things about Zach Whalen, which is my name, that don't have UMW in them, I can put a minus sign in front of UMW, and now all of the search results are going to be other things. They might be some things related to me, but in fact, you'll see, as I'm seeing here, there are several now that show up that are not related to me because I did this here. I put minus UMW, as in exclude any results that reference UMW. And when I did that, it pulls up the other major Zach Whalen that I know of that has a website, who's an underwater photographer. So you should check out his stuff here. He seems like a pretty cool guy. I like his work. He and I have the same name. But this is a different Zach Whalen, and this is his website. All right, and that came up instead of my website because I subtracted UMW from the results. I said no search results that have UMW on them. Okay, so the minus sign plus the site operator can be used to find out information about a particular site. Because if I cite CIS.org, right, so I'm not going to CIS.org right now, I'm putting this in a search field, and I'm going to come up with a lot of things related to CIS.org. Or if I search for Center for Immigration Studies, again, I'm going to get a lot of things from CIS.org. So what I want to do instead is actually exclude everything from their website using a combination of the minus operator and the site operator. So minus site CIS.org should give me a different set of results. Yeah, great. So now this gives me a different list of results. So this is probably pretty useful. And in fact, as I'm looking through this, I can see several things that might give me a sense of kind of already just by glancing at the results here, what kinds of things people are saying or what kinds of conversations this group is being part of. So, as I'm looking through this, the Wikipedia page is a useful one. I already mentioned Wikipedia and its values, as a thing. Looks like this is the Twitter account for CIS, so I'm going to skip that because that probably is the same thing as CIS.org. Here's the Southern Poverty Law Center, so I'll take a look at them. MediaBiasFactCheck.com. This is a site to use with a little bit of a grain of salt, but I think it is also going to give me some useful information as well. Procon.org. I don't know much about that. Gitter is another. It's one of those other Twitter-like, social media platforms. Here's bridge.georgetown.edu. I don't know what that is, but it's from Georgetown, so it's probably got a bit of context to it. Here's something from, I don't know. I'm going to skip procon.org because I don't really know what that is, and I'm seeing that this is a page about the ACLU, so I don't know. Let me just see what this is. Maybe I'll learn. Okay, so this looks like it's a debate, information for debate research. So I think that's probably not that useful. Maybe it is, but I'm gonna go ahead and look at PolitiFact also, because PolitiFact is another one of these fact-checking sites. So now that I've done this search and I just went through the first page here, and usually you can do a lot with the first page, but I could keep going if I wanted to. Here's Source Watch, here's the Library of Congress, Influence Watch. These are definitely things that seem related to this question of is this a reliable source, but you can keep looking through it and keep going there. Basically what I'm doing as I'm doing this is I'm seeing I'm reading laterally and I'm seeing sources that I already know about. So basically, when you go back to this slide here, when you spread out horizontally, as I'm doing here visually, right, you're looking for things that you recognize. So you're looking for like, oh, I know what Wikipedia is. Oh, I know what SPLC is. And once you hit that, now you have some confidence. Now you have some ability to put your assessment of, in this case, I'm assessing CIS.org, into the context of veracity. Like, is this a reliable source? So let's see what these different websites say about it. So Center for Immigration Studies. This is the Wikipedia page, and you'll notice that the Wikipedia page here says that it's not just that it's an immigration, they're not just immigration focused, but actually an anti-immigration think tank. So going back to my notes here, they are probably, I think, this is Wikipedia, so I think this is probably a pretty good consensus view of it, but I'll keep reading some more, of course. Yeah, that's probably good. And then if I'm curious about it, there's a link to the description of what the hate group is, but I noticed they've mentioned SPLC here, so now I can see what the SPLC thinks about it. I think, yeah, this is it. So this tells me quite a bit more about it. It was founded by John Tanton, I guess, but it's apparently run by other people now. And they've actually called it an extremist group. So they've said that this is listed in their, or it's tracked as their kind of hate group. Mom went to the store, so it's just me right now, and I'm on a live stream. Okay, so this is pretty interesting. This is, as I'm also looking through this, there's a fair amount of discussion about some of their claims, some of their rhetoric, some of their claims apparently being debunked by the Cato Institute, which is also a conservative group. So the fact that this is being debunked by them is also pretty telling. Also, yeah, the Heritage Foundation, that they've been distanced. The Heritage Foundation has also distanced themselves from this group. So this is, I mean, there is a, I guess, formal definition of what a hate group is. It might be it might be debatable whether or not this counts, but I think it sounds like it does. And as it says here, they have a decades-long history of circulating racist writers and promoting white nationalism. So I feel like that's probably true. There seems to be lots of sources in this. And if I had any questions, I think I could probably, click through these and learn a bit more. But I feel pretty confident in this, and that's because if I go back to what a fact is, or like what we think of as kind of true, according to the definition here, I do. I've relied on the SPLC for a while. I mean, I do think that sometimes, you always have to read into things, but I've not seen them. They seem to be making good faith efforts to try to classify a hate group and call it what classify hate groups and call it what it is, and I have no reason to doubt their ability to do that. So I feel pretty confident that this settles the question for me as far as whether it's reliable. But I think I could go on and look at this a bit more. So this is Media Bias Fact Check. Media Bias Fact Check is the only issue that's, I think, iffy with this one is that it a lot of their, like, this big meter thing that they have up here has to do with what people submit. So you can actually vote on these things essentially. And so it occurs to me that it would be possible to flood that and sort of shift the needle inappropriately. But if you look down here, it looks like they've got a fair amount of discussion here that looks similar to what SPLC says. So I think this is, again, confirming that mostly. Again, I don't really know what Procon is. I don't really know what this is, but this looks similar as well. So I feel pretty confident that I'm not trusting this source. They do not have a good reputation for accurately representing issues about immigration. Very poorly. So to me, that's pretty good. And I'm going to make this a link to the SPLC review because to me that seemed like the most thorough discussion of these things. Also fairly legible and accessible. So I'm going to go ahead and link to that within the Google Doc here, and put my initials here. Okay, so this is what I'd like for you to do. Essentially, there's several more sources here, and I would like for you to go through each of these. Let me see. There's only one or two. This one. So this one, I just noticed this is an archive link, so I want to make sure this link still works. And you may come to this document and if you find that all of them have already been covered, then just do it yourself anyway, and just add anything you need to whatever field. And then if you do that, like in other words, if you find that all the other ones have already been filled in, when you get to this, you can just go through and take a look at cis.org, let's say, or some other one, and just add your thoughts to any of these columns that need them, and then add your initials under the research by, like hit enter and say also, John, or whoever you are, just add your name here to the research by, just because I want to keep track of who's doing what, basically. Okay, so this is still not loaded yet, which is a concern. It could take it a little bit long. If this one never ends up working, I mean, I could probably find this file again, but I do wonder if it's still available on the live web. Oh, it is, okay. I don't know why the Wayback Machine is crapping out. Okay, maybe it was just a little hiccup there. Okay, so that's how you access that. That's how you complete this activity. If you have any questions about this, then of course please ask, but try to complete this today. This is practice for the kind of research you're doing. So this is hopefully helpful at the stage of researching this article that you're working on. Okay, so yeah, so I just saw Nia's question. I don't know if Nia, if you're watching live, but I saw your question in troubleshooting, and yeah, that's fine. So yeah, so that's reading laterally. This is the activity, right? So yeah, as you're doing this, again, a couple reminders. So do not just read the about page and rely on that, because every source thinks that itself is credible. Every author thinks of themselves as a credible source. But what really matters is, do other people think that they're credible? And that's what we're interested in here. And also, don't look at the individual merits of the article in question. So we're not assessing that. We are assessing the website that it's hosted on. So what we want to do is consult other non-affiliated websites, use advanced search filters like I did there. You can also use the whois to learn more about the domain. And I will try this, although it often doesn't work with .orgs, but I will try this. There are several ways to do a domain lookup, and if you recall, when you were researching your own domain, I kind of pointed to whois.sc as one. So we can try it. A lot of times, websites will actually have their contact information obfuscated so that you can't actually look it up through whois, but sometimes you can, and sometimes that helps. Yeah, I mean, it's hosted by, it's registered to itself. Yeah, I mean, .orgs usually don't have a personal contact information list, a personal contact list listed, and that's fine. There's no real smoking guns here. It just looks like normal website stuff. I don't know. Maybe I could find another one that would be a bit more interesting. nsidc.org. I don't know that one. nsidc.org. Yeah, I don't see anything interesting here either. So it's the National Stone. Well, okay, so it is the National Stone Ice Data Center. I don't know. I don't see anything interesting. So sometimes you'll find something, sometimes you won't. If you know what you're looking for, there are a couple of things that might be, maybe not red flags, but like orange flags, like things that could be an interesting source. Yeah, I don't want to pull up an actual example of this, but one thing is so you have to, whenever you register a domain, you sign up with a specific company, right? This is called a domain registrar. When you have signed up for an account through UMW Domains, we are acting as your registrar, but we're actually reselling from Reclaim Hosting, and so Reclaim Hosting will probably show up as your actual registrar. That's a company that's agreed to host the name that you've signed up for, not the content, but the name. Like, those are separate things. So especially after January 6th last year, the insurrection at the Capitol, there were some platforms that were taken offline because the companies that those domains were registered with said, we're not going to support this content. Like, we're going to take this content offline. And there's a few pretty high profile ones that were shut down that way. Essentially, there was no way for them to get online because they couldn't access their domain, right? They could still access their content, but they couldn't get to the namespace that they owned, that they previously owned. But then there are a couple of registrars that came up and said, we'll host whatever, like we will host anything for anybody. So if you see that a website is registered with Epic, E-P-I-K, as the registrar, that's a clue that maybe this is one of those sites that was kicked off of some other registrar. And so maybe that would be a red flag that you could follow up on. I mean, I'm sure Epic also hosts tons of benign websites that have no real no issues with them, but they kind of made a name for themselves in terms of hosting anything. So that's kind of how you can do Whois, but I think Whois, again, is not always super helpful. It sometimes is. And as you can see here, well, this is another thing you can also find out about, right? So if you look at the notes from the textbook, here's two examples. This is a different tool that he's used to look it up. Maybe this one's probably better, actually. The ICANN tool. ICANN, by the way, is the organization that manages domains in general, so maybe this is a more reliable place to look this up anyway, because they're not going to try to upsell you. But the thing that Mike Caulfield is pointing out is that if a domain is registered privately, that could also be a clue or a red flag. I don't think it is necessarily. I think anybody has a right to keep their information private, but in this case, we can at least see that Mother Jones is founded by the foundation, or it's registered to the Foundation for National Progress. That makes sense. But here he's looking at this one called the BaltimoreGazette.com, which is registered privately through domainsbyproxy.com, which seems a little odd. If the BaltimoreGazette.com was really a newspaper, it probably would just have an office listed as the contact information, like an office in Baltimore probably. But they don't, because they're actually a fake news website. They are a fake website pretending to be a local newspaper. Okay, so that's hopefully helpful. And this is what I'd like for you to do again. Go through each of these, look at all of these sources, and see what you can find out about them. But remember, your goal is to find out about the domain, who runs it, for what purpose, and how reliable are they based on this idea of reliability that I've talked about today. Okay, so something else you should be working toward is completing and sharing the draft of your article. So this is something that I would like for you to do as you complete it. So remember, I'll go back to the template here for a bit. Remember, delete the blue stuff or change these two blue things to be your actual claim and your actual answer. You're going to add to this section with examples. You're going to add some background in terms of like why this would have spread and so on. Add some evidence of it being shared. And then what I'd like for you to do, once you feel like you've got a complete draft, is actually share that with us in Discord. Share it in its draft stage. And what you should do is what I've got kind of highlighted here. Go to the share button, the big blue button up here at the top right, and click that button and get a copy of the link. So you might have to change it, but what you're looking for is anyone with a link can comment. And that's what this screenshot looks like. I've got the screenshot here. This is what it should look like for your article. Then copy that link and share it. So please share that in the Web Literacy Review channel in Discord. That is a channel set up for sharing and reviewing these things. And it is under, where did I put it? Did I make this yet? Maybe I didn't even make this one yet. I think I did, hang on. Maybe I did. Maybe I thought I did, but I didn't. Okay, well, I'll put it under the sharing category, I guess. I really thought I made this. So I've now made a Web Literacy Review channel. So what I'd like you to do is share it in there. Now you will, if you're the first one to do this, you'll just see yourself there. But if you are coming along after someone has already shared it, you will see someone else is there. I would like for you to review at least 2 of your peers' articles, and you'll find them linked there in the Web Literacy Review channel. So please do that, and then complete the final revisions based on those comments. So those comments might be those comments can be copy editing kind of questions, like, things like there's a typo here, there's a missing comma, whatever. And I'll talk a lot more tomorrow about style, like how to write these in terms of style. But another really helpful comment might be like, is there another example, or this example doesn't make sense, can you explain this? Or, maybe fix the screenshot because it looks weird, whatever. They can be pretty substantial kind of things. And I'll also go in there and give you comments and revisions, like to suggest revisions and improvements for your article. So respond to those either by accepting or rejecting the suggestions, and you can reject suggestions too. You don't have to assume that everyone that has a suggestion for you is correct. My son is yelling at his sisters, it sounds like. Hold on a second. I'll just close the door for now and deal with that later. I'm the only parent that's home. Then ultimately, you're going to, as usual, finish things up by writing a blog post and submitting that blog post in Canvas. Within that blog post, make sure you link to that article that you've created, but you should provide an anyone can view link instead of the anyone can comment link. That's my advice about that. But make sure you do share that in Discord. Make sure you share your draft in Discord, so if nothing else, I have access to it that way. And then finally submit that blog post in Canvas. Okay, so that is almost all for today. I'm actually wrapping up in less than an hour. The other thing I just want to remind you about is with the digital culture module. I think Nia's already done with hers, so others, you might be just now getting ready to start on this. Remember, this one's a little different because I'm giving you a wider set of options to choose from. But just like the creativity module, the idea is to go through the options, find one, make an initial blog post, and add some conversation in Discord. Now, to do that, to add some conversations in Discord, I want to see your emoji there, Al Kaufman. I don't know what that emoji signifies, if it does, but it's good to see you online. You were in my games and culture class a while ago, weren't you? I think. All right. So anyway, add some conversation in Discord, but you may not find a You may not find a channel for the module that you want to work on. If that's the case, you'll have to ask me to make it. I've decided I probably am not going to give you all the ability to create channels just because there's already a lot of channels and I don't want to get any more chaotic than it already is. But go ahead and just request, say, hey, I need a channel to talk about my module, whatever it is, whatever module it happens to be, and I will go ahead and create it for you under the digital culture modules category. So please do that. And finally, don't forget about the video. I made a channel just for sharing those videos. So that's the module reflections channel. There's a lot of channels. Just share that channel, share that video 60 to 90 seconds, link directly to the video if you can. If it's small enough in terms of file size, then you can upload it. Whatever you'd like to do there. Just I want to see those videos in that space, ideally, and that's it. Okay, so this is all my slides for today. I can stick around if anyone has any questions. I do see Asia. So Asia just sent me a question. I'll go ahead and answer it on the video if that's all right, because even though it was a DM, because it's a general question. The question was, can a video just be a voice? Like for most of these, you should have something to show or like demonstrate. So you don't have to actually appear on camera, but I would like to see something usually. It's hard to imagine one that would not have something to show, like a brief slideshow if nothing else. So I do want these to be videos ideally, unless there's some really compelling reason for it just to be audio. But I don't think there usually is. So yeah. But again, you don't have to be on camera with these. You can just record your voice with some kind of imagery, like a slideshow or whatever your the work you produced, whatever it is. And we're just talking about 60 seconds here, so hopefully that's easy to come by. Yeah, in requiring you all to do this, I haven't really taught or explained how to record a video, kind of because I assume you already know how to do that, but if you don't, you can ask and I can give you advice about different options, but there are many ways to do it on your computer, whatever kind of computer you have, Windows, Mac, Linux. There's lots of tools, lots of web-based tools now also. So there's definitely a way for you to do it, and I'm happy to advise if you'd like, but I'm mainly just counting on you all to be able to figure that out yourself. If it helps, I'm using OBS to broadcast this right now. You can also use OBS to record videos, which is what I do. So that's my preferred method on this computer, at least, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, Streamlabs OBS is good. I like Streamlabs. I mean, I'm using the regular OBS Studio, but Streamlabs OBS comes with a few more kind of nice customizations already applied. So yeah, also I forget if there's a Streamlabs version for Linux, but I doubt there are many Linux users watching. But if there are, there may be a Linux version. Doesn't matter. The regular OBS Studio is fine. Okay, well, let me just kind of review what we talked about, because and then I will wrap this up actually a little earlier than usual. Today we talked about I'll just kind of zip back through my slides here. I talked about, I keep saying we. I just reminded you all about the idea of going upstream whenever you're trying to find the source of information. This is what we're doing. This is what you've hopefully already started doing for your article, and that you've hopefully practiced using this method with the image search, like the idea of searching upstream to find the source of a specific image. Again, please do that. Those threads still exist in Discord, but they expire after 24 hours, so make sure you do that soon. Then reading laterally is finding out, once you've got that source, what do other people say about this? Is this a reliable source or not? And once you've got the best source available, what you're doing when you assess the reliability of the source is you're learning about the reliability of the specific claim that they're making in that document. And that's where you can find information on, in my case, I found information from the SPLC. Also, Google is a useful tool to find those sources, and Wikipedia is great as well. So this is how we read laterally. Your goal today, or your task for today, is to practice this and add your contributions to this Google Doc here, which I sent a link to in the live stream chat channel. And of course, keep working on your research for your specific article. Try to get the draft done today, and once you get the draft done, share the results in Discord. Okay, it's kind of a lot of things. I think I'll probably send an announcement with a reminder and some links about all these different things. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to wrap things up here. Thanks for watching. If you watch live, or if you're watching it after the fact, that's fine too. If you have any questions, of course, you're always welcome to get in touch. Send me a DM in Discord. That's probably the quickest way to reach me. And yeah, I think I'll wrap it up here. Let me just turn on the music and switch over to my outro scene. All right. Have a great day, everyone.